Hi folks, Carl James here from Electric Media Madness, and we've reached the end of Star Trek Picard, the final episode, Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2. I'm joined again today by Dan Ryan. How you doing?
Not great after watching that episode. Really not great.
Well, we'll get into all of that as we go along. It was a bizarre experience, especially for me, who quit halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
You had to basically talk me into watching the last half of it.
Yeah.
Because I was just... I mean, I'm glad I did, actually, because there was something good to come out of this episode at the end. Does it make it a good episode? No. Does it, But we'll come to that anyway. So is there anything you want to mention or talk about before we jump into all the bits and bobs?
Just that, it had an excellent start to the episode, because they announced the return of our favourite show. Star Trek Discovery Season 3 is coming soon.
As if there wasn't enough misery in the world at the moment as it is. Michael Burnham comes along to make it 10 times worse. I'd have what's going on in the world any day over Michael Burnham.
But she could save us. She could. She is so powerful.
She's the bestest
ever. She
ever.
is. She could. Any virus or anything that came along, she could cure it instantly, because she is perfect.
I bet she could. Right then. So, well, like we said, for those people who wonder why we're not on video today, with circumstances, we're all in isolation. We're all hiding from the world. I am now officially under house arrest, in exile, as are you as well. So we're going to do this through the wonders of modern technology.
Yep.
We're going to do an audio version of it, because it's a lot easier with the speeds of uploads on internet at the moment and things like that. So I've got my lengthy pages of notes here, so we'll jump straight in. We open with Narek arriving at the Borg cube. We see Elnor and Seven sitting together. Would the XBs be better off dead? Everyone hates them. They have no home. Elnor to 7 and 9. I'm an XB. I have no home. Why don't I put a phaser to my head and get it over with, 7? So we've got this common theme of people putting phasers to their heads in Star Trek nowadays. A little point I wanted to discuss here. We talk a lot in these videos, don't we, about the destruction of past canon of Star Trek.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came immediately to my mind is, where is Seven's, for want of a better way of putting it, because that's how they were called in the series, her family, the crew of Voyager? Many of the crew in that series talked about that all the time. They were like family, and they were effectively Seven's family.
Yeah.
Where are they in this? And I know that they didn't want to pay the actors to do this, or Patrick Stewart probably didn't want them there, or Alex Kurtzman probably didn't want them there either. But it begs this question where she says, "I have no home. Why don't I'm an XB? Why?" What are your thoughts on that, Dan?
I think we should just be glad, really, that they haven't also mercifully been ruined as well.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. Even with dialogue, they probably would have fucked up the canon of Voyager, wouldn't
Likely,
they?
yeah.
So, I suppose you're right. We should be grateful for small mercies,
Yeah.
really. When Seven puts this question forward, should I put a phaser to my head and all that, Elnor says, well, because I'd miss you. I mean, Elnor barely knows her. Well, that could be said for most of the characters in this show, actually.
That is a big problem. They all act like they're really good friends, but they barely know each other. Like, some of them, as you see later, act like they've known each other a long time, but they've only actually...
Yeah, the end of the episode.
Yeah, they've only spoke to each other, for about a minute in the whole show.
And it's a tough one, because when you're watching this show, you're trying to establish kind of how much time has gone by as well. I would say only a few weeks. What's your take on the timeline of this series, roughly how long you think it might take?
I would say it's probably about the same.
So we see Narek, he's sneaking around inside the Borg cube, and then Rizzo appears. I was under the impression she beamed off when she was mauled by all those Borg zombies. She clearly didn't. She beamed into another part of the ship, or maybe she beamed off and then beamed back on again. Why, if that's the case? She puts a knife to Narek's throat, and then she hugs him, as you do.
Of course.
So then Rizzo says to him, have you fucked any of them yet? Talking about the synths.
Of course.
Not yet, he says. Have you killed any? Oh, one. Well, I call that progress, she says.
It's so shit.
Yeah, it's really bad dialogue. A lot of this episode's like that, actually. Right then, so we have Soji and Picard together talking. Soji's gone in to visit Picard. He's locked in his room at the moment. You choose if we live. You choose if we die. You choose. We have no choice. This is Soji to Picard. So it's kind of identity politics here, bashing the patriarchy as well, that kind of idea. You know, we don't have any choices, but you, Picard, the Federation, you've got all the power kind of argument. So surreptitiously, they're Federation bashing again, aren't they? And then Picard says, don't let the Romulans turn you into the monsters that they fear. So we've got hatred plus fear equals isms here. Less than subtle subtext in the episode, but that's everything that we've come to expect from the writing of this show. Yeah. Then Narek leaves the cube to do his work, whatever this work is that he's going to do for Rizzo. He's going to go back to Synthville, I think. But initially, that's what I thought he was going to do, but he doesn't. He ends up going somewhere else. But Elnor's following him. We'll see where that goes in a minute. And we see that Rizzo is going to stay behind on the Borg cube to secretly try and get the weapon systems working. I assumed that that's what Seven and the X-Borgs and that were already trying to do. If she's messing around with the computers, surely it should have come up long before Seven notices that anybody's doing this, which is presumably how Seven magically finds Rizzo later in the episode, but that's neither here nor there.
Of course, you know, it's such a small ship after all, you know,
Oh, God, yeah. So then, this is one of the first things that really started me off down a path of absolute hatred towards this episode. We return to the magical device, the one that uses your imagination to work. And Rios and Raffi are using it to fix the ship. And he just does. He connects it up to this power system thing, and he uses his imagination. One little tiny sparkle of magic device, and La Serena is fully powered up again. Very, very convenient. Typical of JJ Trek, you know, the magic plot MacGuffin that does it.
You know, I thought I was watching Star Trek, not loading up Disney Plus and watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or something like that. What's with this Disney magic shit? That's what it is. It's just like the power of imagination can do anything.
Power of science. I like science. That's what Spock said in Star Trek Discovery. But it's not. It's just magic now. Yep. So, a couple of things here. Rios to Raffi, you were right. Say it one more time, saying that she's right, as a woman being right all the time. She says, say it one more time, and Rios says, piss off. Another little bit of the old cursing here. Jurati, Dr. Soon says, oh, you know, be like a mother to them and all this kind of thing, and he disappears off. And all of a sudden you see that she's flip-flopping again in her loyalties. Once, yet again, she's flip-flopping her loyalties. She mutters under her breath, I'm not their mother, asshole. So, you know, I know they're trying to make the character clever and that she wasn't really on the synth side all along, but all it does is just say to the viewers that she can't make up her mind who she wants to be loyal to.
She's just a terrible person. She just manipulates everyone. It only cares for herself, apparently. So she's you're meant to. Yeah.
But they're trying to say, oh no, it was the admonition thing in her mind. It made her go crazy, and now she's all right. But it doesn't add up, does it?
No, it still doesn't.
So once Dr. Soon has left the room, it seems that she's not working for the synths after all. We go back to Narek, and he's throwing rocks. He's standing outside La Serena. He's throwing rocks at the window or something. Raffi calls him the abusive Romulan boyfriend. So got another bit of male bashing there. Narek says, we can stop fighting or we can work together. So they basically just, again, like they've done in this, they just let him onto the ship, and just like that, they started working with him.
Of course, you know.
If they did have a discussion, it was all off screen, because the next thing he's there. Elnor appears. He's got his sword to Narek's throat, but Rios says to him, we have a common enemy. We need to work together. So now, I mean, Elnor says I still don't like you and all this. I still don't trust you, whatever. But they're all working together now. But what's even more incredible about this scene, because it kind of jumps around in time really, really rapidly. The next thing is we see them. They're all sitting outside the ship in the freezing cold night with a storm in the distance, going thunder and lightning. You can hear it. We're around a campfire, out in the freezing cold in the middle of the night. We saw all the power on the ship come back on. So why are they sitting around a campfire outside?
Because,
you know,
creepy. Ooh.
I mean, Elnor points out that his sister killed Hugh. Narek says they've got to work together because of the Gamadan, which is like, it's the end of the world, basically, the end of the universe. And he tells this story. To me, it sounded like just gobbledygook.
Yeah, it really was.
The writers had ripped off from Norse legend and Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, and then they've just added a load of nonsensical Romulan words in there to make it all sound all Trekky and cool. Basically, it just sounds like a load of old bollocks.
I mean, it might as well have been. It was pointless. That whole arc ended up being completely pointless anyway.
The monster, the two demons that came down through and there was entrails through the streets and all this. And I was thinking, this is Game of Thrones now. Well, Alex Kurtzman obviously wants Star Trek nowadays to be like Game of Thrones, but so Narek has these molecular solvent grenades, whatever they are. Presumably that's that thing that made Soji melt in the first... melt in the first episode.
Yeah.
And they plan to use them on the orchids, the space orchids. And they have this plan to go back to Synthville by using Narek as the bait and saying that they've captured him. But that scene is a bit like the episode with the Free Cloud episode. That really shit editing again, where they kind of having the conversation about the plan.
Oh, yeah.
As the plan is... Do you know what I mean? It's the same kind of editing. It gets really shit. They think they're being clever with it, but it's really... So, as you can tell, as we're going along with this, we're not... it's all bad. It's all bad. I know some people say, oh, you're being all negative and that, but seriously, just watch it. Just watch it. You can see for yourself. Agnes Jurati, lovely Agnes Jurati, has decided to scoop out Saga's eye from the dead synth body. Very nice, by the way. And use the eye...
Meant to be a good person.
Well, yeah, she's quirky Jurati. She's lovely.
But has no problem ripping someone's eye out. That's fine.
It's a dead body, so it don't matter. And it's a synth body as well, so it's not even real. So, that's probably what they're thinking and saying. But she uses it to gain access to Picard's locked room. And then Picard, and again, I'm sorry, I know I keep saying it's shit, but Patrick Stewart's acting here is terrible. I'm here, he says, like with his eyes shut, lying on the bed. Like that trance thing that was in the previous episode.
Yeah.
But we're kind of getting the indication here now that wasn't a trance, that he wasn't possessed. It's a result of the Irumodic syndrome thing that he's got in his brain, but the acting is awful. I'm here.
Every time he's affected by this, though, it's quite bad. He just holds his head a bit. He's like, oh, that's it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of this in this episode. So quirky Jurati, all smiles, flying her hands around in the air, and I've busted you out. Dr. Soon, Alton Soon, he retrieves Saga's memories, and he sees Arcana and Narek working together, with Arcana stabbing Saga in the eye with that butterfly brooch thing. So he knows now that she let Narek out. One of the things that we talked about before we started recording this is, and I made it in my notes as well, is this idea that it's supposed to be a tense, dramatic scene, but they're showing you things that the characters are learning for the first time, but the audience have either pretty much summed up or been blatantly told already.
Yeah.
So it's not tense, it's not dramatic, and the music in the background was all like, and all this, like it's really sort of, portentous and all this kind of thing. But we already knew, because we'd seen Arcana let Narek out, and then we saw that Saga was dead, so we already knew that was what. It's just Soon knowing it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they've been doing that the whole season, and it's really not paid off at all. It's been awful. I think that has been the biggest problem with the whole series, really. Yeah. Just most of it is just them learning what we've known for ages.
Because I think we said in one of the recent videos how it was like from episode 2 or 3 onwards, we'd kind of pretty much got the bulk of the gist of where this was going. There's been a few more things in the last 2 episodes, but not a great deal more. Okay, so Rios, Raffi, Narek and Elnor, they're at the mid-construction transmitter tower that the synths plan to use to contact the ancient all-powerful race that are in the admonition visions. They talk about how they're going to blow it up, and then Dr. Soon shows up. We kind of think that he might now be going to be on their side, even though in that recording of the memories he saw that Narek killed Saga, but at that moment he's not confirmed, but we know soon enough after that he is working with them. Yeah. So we jump back to Picard and Jurati, who are now magically aboard the La Serena. everybody on this show seems to use the Westeros Express to get around for transportation, because time and distance, it doesn't seem to matter to get anywhere.
It's so lazily written and edited. Everything's awful.
If they said something like, "Oh, we beamed there. There was a transporter in Synthville. We beamed there," but there's no indication of that either. So you just assume that they walked there. And how did they get there that quick? But then you could say that about Narek and, Elnor and all the rest of it. So fear is an incompetent teacher, Picard says, which is fear-mongering virtue signalling. Fear, I mean, in my research that I do, fear is actually a powerful weapon. It can be used. We see a lot of that in the world at the moment, especially. But it is regularly used by the powers that be for nefarious ends. But the writers of this show, they don't really have any investment in virtual signalling. They just do it. So it's all talk the talk, but they're not walking the walk, are they? They're not pointing out the obvious things. It's tokenistic. It's, oh, this will be good. This will sound clever. This will sound really, profound. Picard, to be alive is responsibility as well as a right. Oh, so profound words from the writers again. Picard gets Lacerina off the ground, and then Jurati says, "Make it so." Pinches Picard's line. How dare she write that? How dare she say that? How dare the writers put those iconic words from Star Trek Next Generation in Jurati's mouth?
It was so cringy how she said it as well. She's like, "Make it so." Fuck off. Fuck off.
Even if any other character had said it, I might not have cringed quite so much, but yeah. So Dr. Soong confronts Arcana in front of all the other synths at the base of the transmitter, and he says that he knows that she killed Saga, and then just conveniently deactivates her with this little remote control thing. Why can they not shut down... When they announced that they were all going to do what they were going to do, why didn't somebody just go and grab a load of remote controls and shut them all down? Yeah, another plot hole.
And there are too many.
Yeah, way too many. Way too many. Raffi whistles? Oh, yeah! Oh, this is brilliant! I forgot about this when I'm reading my notes. She whistles, and then the gang appear, Narek, Elnor and that. Elnor starts punching the synths like they are flesh and blood beings. I was under the impression, we saw Data and Laura in the series, they were super strong. So are these super strong, or are they just flesh and blood?
I guess not. Or
Elnor's really super
very
strong. But maybe. Even Narek's doing it as well. Even Narek's punching them and doing it. He's only a Romulan. So, maybe the Romulans are super strong. I don't know. But, I mean, Romulans come from Vulcan ancestry, and Vulcans are, quite a bit stronger than humans. But Narek jumps into the fight, and it seems like he just falls out of midair to the ground.
I know, that's right.
What's he jumped off? It's just like they just hung him in midair and just... unintentionally, it is hilarious. The fight is really hilarious.
Yeah, it really is.
But it's over as quick as it starts. Rios activates the solvent grenade thing. That he's hidden it inside a football, by the way, which Soji then just sort of catches it, throws it up into the sky, and it explodes. So that whole plot line there with the solvent grenade. That was totally pointless. Yep. Totally, utterly pointless. And I was under the impression that Narek had a load of them, but they only had one inside this football. So I don't know. I don't know what, They didn't think that one out at all. Not one bit.
No.
We go to Rizzo. She's attempting to lock the Borg weapons on the Lacerina, which is now in orbit, by the way. But like I said before, 7 of 9 conveniently finds her at that precise moment as she's about to fire on Lacerina and kill Picard, the main star of the show. You're rather pretty. Or rather, you would be if you weren't a disgusting half-meat. That's what Rizzo says to 7. So, pretentious she is. Then they have some kick-ass girl power kung fu fighting scene type thing. We see the Romulan fleet arriving, and Commodore, or should I say General, as she's labelled here now, General O, gives the order to sterilise the entire planet, which then Soji launches a shitload of these orchid flowers into orbit. Again, how did they manage to get so many of them built so quickly or made so quickly? It's still not explained how they're made, where they come from. Are they grown? Are they made? Where's the facilities to make them? Then we jump back to the Borg ship again, and Seven's still fighting with Rizzo. And then she says, "This is for you." And she kicks Rizzo over the gantry, and Rizzo does a Palpatine, no! She's falling into her death. But she'll probably be alive because it happened to Palpatine, I know that was different. It was a clone.
That's true, yeah.
But, they nevertheless, one way or another she'll be back as a synth or a clone or something like that. So I don't think we've seen the last of Rizzo. Jurati starts rattling on about the Picard maneuver. Yes, we're getting to it. This is, for those people who do know the Star Trek, this is a reference to a famous maneuver that Picard made when he was the captain of the Stargazer against a Ferengi battlecruiser. It's referenced and recreated in the episode The Battle. But this scene is just nonsensical. It's laughably implausible techno jargon. Picard spouting on, we need this and we need that, and da-da-da-da. And Picard saying, well, to do the maneuver, it won't work without X, Y, and Z. And then Jurati says, let's just use the magical imagination plot repairing device that fixed the ship. First of all, how does Jurati even know about this device? Did she read up about it when she was in Synthville? Because she wasn't there when Raffi and Rios were given the device, or told how to use it, or when it was on the ship, or anything like that. If she didn't, how did she even know that the device was on board the ship? It's like she just conveniently looks forward from a console and it's there in front of her. And, oh, shall we use this? If only we had one of these. Oh, wait a minute, we do.
Maybe Mickey Mouse's wand has a magic power, and you know, anyone who holds it knows the power it holds.
Yeah.
Or some pretentious bullshit like that.
Yeah. But, you know, she didn't know what the device was, or it seemed that she didn't know, or I mean, she must have known because she... But even then, it's not being used in the way that it was meant to be used, because they recreate... They're going to recreate the Picard maneuver with loads of ships, but she projects about 20-odd holograms of her head on the bridge, floating around her head. At which point...
I couldn't process that when I saw it.
Well, this is the point where I picked up my remote, threw it across the room, and said, I'm done. And then I turned it off. I had no intention of watching that horse shit anymore. I was only halfway through it. I did not want to watch it any more than that. I thought, I'm done. I'm done. That's it. This is it. This is the moment where it's like, no. And then I spoke to you on the phone, and and you said, well, we can't really make a video. And I said to you, can you just like tell me what happens in the rest of the episode?
I just couldn't. I couldn't process it at all. Like I couldn't produce a reaction. It was so utterly ridiculous. I was just amazed.
I just like, this is fucking shit. This is horse shit. This is just, don't want to know. So we had a break. I had a break, and then eventually I very, very reluctantly went back and started watching again. We have Picard contacting Soji and says that he has something that will change their mind about what they're going to do. And he says, my life. So then he flies the La Sirena towards the Romulan fleet, projects hundreds of the La Sirena into space. Yeah, you know, okay. Yeah, they have done this before in Voyager, as we said in the previous episode. We said that was about the hologram. But not with a magical Disney device that can do this. How it... Oh, man, you know, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even trying to figure it out. But just let's just say it's there. It happens.
The bit that got me is it seems so utterly pointless, because they were only there for about 10 seconds, and then they all got destroyed. Like, what's the point?
The same with the flowers. The same with the orchid flowers, because they were all in orbits trying to stop the Romulan fleet from firing at the planet, and they were just like blasted away, weren't they?
Why not?
Until they were all gone.
Why not project like 50 Borg cubes or something?
Yeah,
That'd at least scare them a little bit. Not like 200 tiny shuttles.
Well, they've got to their new little toy line for the series. They've got to have La Sirena models to sell that are 25% different or completely different from established Borg ships. Yeah, they belong to, you know, Alex Kurtzman can't market them. You know, they already exist, so he can't make a profit out of them. But La Sirena he can. So that's what that's about. I think that's what that's about. Have your little toy line, not that nobody will buy. He flies towards the Romulan fleet. Picard gets hit. No, the ship gets hit, and he has like a funny turn or something. It starts going weird. Soji finishes the transmitter, and it starts transmitting into space and opens this like a portal thing in space. Then one of the few little good things about this episode, not the fleet showing up. The Starfleet show up with loads and loads of Federation ships. shit-looking designs. But the good bit of it is that Riker has come back. He's in charge of the flagship of the fleet, so he's in charge of the fleet. Nice little moment there.
Was nice to see him on the bridge in uniform again.
And they did hint at it in the previous episode that he was in, didn't they? Back where Nepenthe, that he was still on active service, so he could still, if he needed to.
I thought they were going to kill him. I honestly thought that they were going to kill him. I thought that was why he'd be back. Yeah.
The planet's apparently under Federation protection now, because they've got this little deal going. Picard's message got through about amnesty and all the rest of it, and protecting the synth for no other reason than just because it is convenient for the story. The Federation now decide that they're going to protect the synths. That's it. You know, the ban and all the rest of it, that's just gone now. It doesn't matter.
I guess Picard really is respected now.
But at that point there, the Romulans still aren't backing down, because it looks like they're about to go start fighting each other. All the ships are like getting ready to fire their phasers and whatnot at them. Picard has another severe brain thingy. Picard says to Soji, "I know you. I believe in you. Save all of our lives, super robot girl," and all that. So she destroys the transmitter after she spent all that time building it. All of a sudden, just in a split second like that, because Picard is going to do what he's done. Oh, well, that's okay. So destroy it. But not before these, like, robotic tentacle type things start to come out of the hole in space. But because the transmitter shuts down, the tentacles are sucked back in and it closes. We talked about whether that was control from Discovery or something like that.
Yeah, probably was.
The Romulans then, at that point, they stand down and they kind of just conveniently accept what Riker said, and they just warp away.
Like, see ya.
So all of that with the Shatvash and Commodore O and all the rest of it, and the admonition, and it doesn't matter now, because the tentacles have gone, and we'll just fly away. And that's that.
They really, actually just can't write.
No.
The entire build-up across the entire show is just almost happened, but not really. Most of this episode is just things that almost happen.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Almost happen. And that includes the key thing at the end of the episode, which we'll come to in a minute. But yeah, it is almost like, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Oh, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
We have one little final backwards and forwards between Riker and Picard. I did wonder why Picard didn't say to Riker, you know, you're here with all the Federation fleet with all this advanced medical technology on board. I'm about to die, by the way. Is there any chance you could do something to help? But no, he just says, thank you for always having my back to Riker. And Riker's like, anytime, da-da-da. And then the Federation fleet just warps away as well.
Yeah.
So then Picard starts hallucinating about being on his vineyard with Data again, which was from the first episode. Jurati and he beam down to Synthville, and the whole group all gather round him, and they're all crying and whatnot, and and then Picard dies.
They actually did it. They killed Picard.
So not only are all these characters that, with the exception of Raffi, they barely know him, and they're all sobbing their heart out. But the Picard death thing, yeah, we'll come to that in a second, because we've got Seven of Nine and Rios. They're sitting in the sunset, musing about different things, you know, about where their life's gone and all that kind of thing. Raffi and Elnor sobbing. Elnor's absolutely gushing. He is. Oh my God, it's all over. He's gone.
Poor Elnor again.
And Raffi's like, there. Poor Elnor. And then we get into strangeness, which is typical Alex Kurtzman. Picard seems to wake up, and he's in a room with Data, and he says, I dream about you all the time. Am I dead? And Data says, yes, Captain. He says, it's wonderful to see you, Data. Your strange, beautiful face, he says to him. So, this is something that we talked about previously, about the unrequited love thing. But we'll see. We'll explain where this is all going. So, Picard says, I never told you. And Data said, that you love me? And Picard nods. And Data says, knowing that you love me forms a small but statistically significant part of my memories. I hope that brings you some comfort, sir. And Picard says, it does. So what we're saying here is, like, this is not a sexual love thing or anything like that, or a romantic love. This is just a friendship, brotherly, crew love type thing. And I'm kind of, not that I've got anything against that kind of thing in a different context, but here, it never ever fit these two characters, did it?
No.
And they've kind of played it to this now. And that I can more accept. I was happy with that in that respect. The respect for each other, they do love each other. Because as they were first started talking about it, I almost thought we was going to get a repeat of Rose Tyler on the beach with David Tennant's doctor. I love you.
I was scared that they were going to kiss. Like, I thought that was how it was going.
And it would have been so disrespectful to the history of their entire, these two characters. But they didn't. It was more like a familial friendship, love type thing. That's great. I was fine with that. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. That doesn't, in the context of these characters, of course.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Soji and Jurati and Alton Soon and that, they've mapped Picard's brain. When did they do this? As he was dying? Very, very quick.
I mean,
very short amount.
It would have had to have been after he died, and then his brain shut down.
Wouldn't that negate the ability to map it after the brain shut down? I don't know. Maybe they've got technology now that they can do it even after the brain's dead. I don't know. Let's not question these things too much.
No.
In the final moments of the interaction between Picard and Data, in this virtual setup place thing, wherever it is they are, Data says peace, love, friendship. These are precious because we know they cannot endure. So basically, Data wants Picard to shut him, because there's some last conscious bits of his memory which are still stored at Synthville. But Data wants to die, basically, because it's the finality of his existence, isn't it?
Yeah, I did like all the Data stuff, actually.
I did as well. Yeah, it was the one really good thing that came out of this episode.
Well, the whole show, really.
So Data wants Picard to shut down the last of his consciousness, and then you have this the butterfly that lives forever. He's not really a butterfly at all. That's Data. I mentioned before in the previous video about butterfly symbolism. Alex Kurtzman loves it. It's very symbolic of sort of trauma and the way the mind works and dissociation and all that kind of thing, trauma, mind control and all that sort of stuff. So Picard agrees to shut down. He walks out of the room into the light, and it turns out that Picard's memories have been transferred into the Golem. My precious Golem. No, I appreciate the fact that this is more Gollum is in science fiction literature and all that kind of thing. It's like an artificial life form that's implanted memories and that. So, yeah. Picard shuts down the remaining algorithms of Data in the computer, and we see, like in this simulation vision type thing, Data's listening to Blue Skies, the song that he sang at Riker and Troy's wedding at the beginning of Nemesis, Star Trek Nemesis, was it? Yeah, at the wedding, at the beginning of that. And he lies down to sleep, and Picard's holding his hand in the vision. And you see Data get old, and then everything disappears. And that's it.
Yeah.
All sad. Data's gone now, properly gone. And Picard is now a synthetic life form. We have a couple of little bits to finish up now. Rios and Jurati, they're on the bridge of La Serena, and they kiss, so they're the love interest. Then we see Raffi and Seven having a bit of a drinking contest, but we see them holding hands delicately, and they're looking into each other's eyes really longingly. So, presumably, bow chicka wow wow.
They barely knew each other.
I know. I've always said about the bisexuality of Seven of Nine's character. It was never something that was the years that she was on Voyager, it was never an indication that was there. If it's a character development of her, if that's the way they want to go with it, so be it. It doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work for me with the characters 7 and 9. People will say, well, they don't know each other. I mean, it's alluded to that Raffi is because of that communication we had with that Starfleet officer in the an early episode, was it?
Yeah. It wouldn't have bothered me as much if it was with two people who'd actually interacted, really. But
yeah, that they knew each other a little bit more.
But they barely did at all.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. Because they've had very, very little interaction in the show, have they? They've barely spoken to each other, really.
I can't even think of a time when they have, really.
Raffi did say to her, I really respect what you do and all this with the Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
When in the last time she was on the ship, it was such a fleeting line. It was very, very brief.
Yeah.
So Picard appears, then Elnor's there, and he says it's time, and then Soji appears. And the group are on the bridge together, and it seems that now, because the synth ban is lifted, Soji can travel and do, so she's decided that she's going to join them. Picard says, engage! And the ship warps away. Where's Narek, by the way? That was my big question at the end of it all, because he was fighting the synths, and I don't think we saw him after that.
No.
Well, what happened to him?
No. We'll never know.
No. I'm sure he'll be back.
Probably, yeah.
As the nemesis of Soji. So then, come on, give me your thoughts. Go through it with me. Tell me what you think.
Well, I liked the Riker bit. I liked the Data stuff. I didn't like much else. It made the whole show feel pointless this episode because everything that's been built up just ended up being nothing and was concluded like instantly.
I mean, putting aside all the pretentiousness of it all, the shit acting, the woefully awful, inadequate dialogue. I mean, even like special effects and stuff like that, they weren't really much to look at. I've seen far better in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And, that was 20 years ago, so over 20 years ago. So I kind of feel like the only real sort of saving grace of it. Had I have stopped where I did with holographic bobblehead Jurati, this would have been like -10, or at the very least, let's not exaggerate, it would have been 0 again. But this did have those redeemable little things. It was great to see Picard and Data. Their relationship, their interaction with each other in Star Trek: The Next Generation was always one of my highlights of the show.
Yeah.
The same as the interaction between Riker and Picard. I got a kick out of them because I like that stuff from Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's what really I loved about the show. But these characters, they're undercooked, they're underdeveloped, and this little tiny kernel of an idea, of a story idea, it never really ever amounted to anything. We kept being told, "Oh, this is that is that. This is where this is going." It's like going out when you're a kid and you get taken out somewhere for the day, and they're going to say, "Oh, you're going to love going here. It's absolutely brilliant." And you get there, and you go, "What is that? It?
Yeah.
I want to go home now." Is that
yeah,
it?
basically, yeah. One thing that if anyone looks on places like Twitter or whatever, a lot of people have started posting these, but it seems like barely anything from this show they actually made. Everything, it's either images off like Google, like I said last video about the rotting fox. I showed you yesterday that like from an earlier episode where Soji was putting on the equipment for that new recruit or whatever, the coat hangers in the background are like the third one that shows up on Amazon.
Yeah. And I found another one today. I found another one after you told me about that. The room that Picard was locked in, I thought I recognised the shelf. It's like a rounded shaped shelf unit type thing. That it's the door frame of a shower unit that you can buy on Amazon, and they haven't even painted it. They just took the glass out and put some shelves in it, and that's it.
It's very lazily made. This.
Yeah, it was done on the cheap, I think. Yeah,
I'd say so. Yeah.
As with all aspects of this production, as well as writing. So there we go, we've reached the end. I don't really know what to sort of say. I'm probably not going to return to it for season 2. I'd say these things and then I end up coming back because I feel like it's important to document these dumpster fires in the media at the moment. So, watch this space where that one's concerned for me. But for now, no, it's my Picard. The sky's the limit. At the last episode of Next Generation, that's where Picard sort of ends for me. I liked stuff in the films, but in my headcanon, Picard is still out there, captain in the Enterprise, admiral or whatever. Riker's captain in the Titan. 7 of 9 is off somewhere, in the Alpha Quadrant on board Voyager with Janeway and the rest, having a lovely life, romantically involved with Chakotay, or she's heading up some project somewhere nearby to where Chakotay is on assignment or something like that. That in my head canon, that's where I leave these characters. Certainly not here with this. This to me is like parallel universe, alternate timeline Trek, the same way as I have to look at Doctor Who now as well and all that kind of thing. Because if you acknowledge it, if you accept it, then it destroys so much good from the past. At the moment, it would be a wonderful thing for people to sit down and watch old episodes of Star Trek, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and that. Especially with the way the world is at the moment, there's so much optimism, and this is such a dark show. For all the pretentious lines about hope and fear and da. It's so nihilistic and so depressing.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It is a lot. Yeah, I don't think I'll watch this either. Like I really.
No.
If I hadn't have been doing this with you, I would have stopped watching a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
I really stopped caring then.
Yeah. I mean, I just halfway through this, I was done.
Yeah, you were.
And I'm glad, as much as I say, I am glad I did watch it to the end, because I did enjoy seeing Riker again. Even though in my head it's in a parallel universe, alternate timeline type thing, it was nice to see Riker there. It was nice to see Data and Picard in this vision afterlife thing. What would have been fantastic, though, we said about this, was if he'd have looked up and it had been Q there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody says that online, it would have been brilliant. Would have been fantastic, that would have.
It would have, yeah.
So what did you think of that dream sequence? Now back to the Enterprise.
Oh, they were so close. They could have just dropped that in as well.
They could have done that.
He could have died.
Yeah, they could have done that.
And then when he died, he just woke up on the Enterprise.
Yeah, I know people would have said it was a rehash of Tapestry, but I don't care. If you're gonna plagiarise things, plagiarise something good.
That's true, yeah.
So, shall we put this one to bed?
Yeah.
What do you think, score-wise?
Are we doing the episode or the whole show?
Well, we'll do the episode first.
I think I'd give this one a 3, because those two parts did bring me a little joy, and that's more than I've had the last few episodes.
Okay. I didn't get any joy out of this, whether it be unintentional hilarity or intentional enjoyment of it. But I liked the Picard. I've said it, Riker and Picard and Riker and Picard and Data. So for me, I will give that. Let's go with 1.5, just for those two little things. Everything else about it is appalling and abysmal, and just no, I don't want to know.
Yeah,
I don't want to know. If those scenes hadn't have been in, it would have been a 0 or minus.
Oh, yeah, I
minus
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. They were, for me, the only redeemable things about this. I've got nothing I do unhappy with the resolution of the story, if you could call it that, or where the characters have got to, if you could call it that. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
What about the series overall?
I honestly, I might have given it higher than this if not for this episode, but a 1. Just it goes nowhere. It doesn't have an end, and every bit of development is just exposition dropped on you, and then you wait for them to find it out the way that you should have. It's so appallingly written.
Yeah, for me it's the beginning and the end. There's some good stuff in the first episode. There's a couple of little bits we've already talked about in the last episode, and they are largely to do with the past of Star Trek. But that said, irrespective of that, I did think there was a core of a really, albeit very, very small, there was a core of a really good idea for a story here.
Yeah.
And they completely wasted it. They could have gone somewhere really good with that, with the Borg cube and all the rest of it. And I wonder sometimes if they think, well, we know that people out there are going to think we're going to do this and we're going to do that, so we'll do the opposite instead. Subvert our expectations, because they love doing that.
They do love writing shit.
And they think they're being clever, but it's just people writing shit. It's not clever at all. So my score for the series, it's probably 1.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. It'd be very hard to give it any higher.
Yeah. And I mean, I rated, I think it was episode 6 or 7 or something like that. The one where the Impossible Box, was that 7? Episode 7?
I think
I can't
it was
remember.
6 or 7. Yeah.
6, yeah, it was, yeah, because Nepenthe was episode 7 after that. I rated that a little bit higher than my others because I really thought the story was finally going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it didn't. It didn't do anything. And initially, the idea behind Elnor, I thought, had some promise. Woefully underused character.
Oh yeah, poor Elnor. He had nothing, no screen time, and all it was abuse. Yeah, and crying. Yeah.
It was a real waste of a potentially good character, albeit a rip-off of many other science fiction and fantasy characters. But it was, it was still something that they could have worked with. So there we go.
Thank God.
There we go. We've reached the end. Say it isn't so, Picard, but they did make it so, and that's where we've left it. So I want to say at this point, thank you very, very much for watching this video, and thank you, Dan, for joining me.
Yeah.
Again for the final leg.
We did it.
Of this race. We did it. We got there in the end. Hopefully we're going to have some more reviews coming up soon, because even if it's just a season overview of Westworld season 3, we may end up doing something like that.
Yeah.
Because we have talked about that, haven't we? I mean, we're already 2 episodes in now, but I don't know whether we're going to do like a mid-season review or something like that. But for those UK fans of such things, we have in just over 2 weeks' time, I believe, we have a brand new Red Dwarf, The Promised Land, feature-length special coming to Dave, which we will be reviewing for you. Me and Dan, we're going to be watching it as it goes out, and we're going to be reviewing it. If things in the world are still the way they are now, we'll be doing something more like this as audio, but we're definitely going to be having a look at that one. We also have some films that we're looking forward to, but we don't know how that's going to play out at the moment. Ghostbusters Afterlife and Bill and Ted 3 and things like that, so we're both can't wait to see what's going to happen with them, are we?
Hopefully we'll actually be talking about some good things.
But we do have Star Trek Discovery looming on the horizon like a
that is true,
massive storm. We'll wait and see where that one goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I'll just say thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, please thumb up that like button for me. Share it about if you can. If you like the channel and the content of the channel, please remember to subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. And both me and Dan will see you very soon.
Yeah, goodbye.
Take care.